One is they have 400 kilograms of highly enriched uranium to 60%. And it doesn't take long to get that to 90%, which is then weapons grade, which they say that they can make 12 nuclear weapons from that.
This is a major spiritual battle that's happening. You see the effects of it in the news every day. I'm absolutely shocked at how Iran is just withstanding the United States and Israel.
I don't think we will. No, I don't think we'll survive as a great power in the end times. America is not mentioned in the Bible. We're certainly not mentioned directly. They believe they can hotwire the apocalypse. So we're not dealing with people here like in North Korea or China that are atheists, that don't want to die, that want to preserve their regime. You're dealing with people who believe they're going to be rewarded for what they're doing. They're preparing the way for their Messiah to come back.
Welcome to Tipping Point. I'm Jimmy Evans. On today's show, we're talking in depth about the war that's going on right now between Israel and Iran. Many people wonder how this war is going to end and if this is a part of Bible prophecy being fulfilled. We're going to be answering those questions as we look at what the scriptures say about what's happening and what's about to happen related to Israel and Iran. I have joining me today Dr. Mark Hitchcock, who is a regular contributor here on endtimes.com and who I believe is one of the preeminent end-time scholars in the world. Dr. Hitchcock holds a PhD from Dallas Theological Seminary and has written 40 books about the end times. He's the senior pastor of Faith Bible Church in Edmond, Oklahoma. He's here today to talk about his new book, The Persian Storm, Biblical Prophecy and Iran's Last Threat to Israel. Mark, thanks for joining me today.
Well, great to be with you again, as always. Thank you for having me.
You've written 40 books on the end times. I think you're the GOAT. I think you're the GOAT of end time prophecy.
Well, I've written, whether that makes you the GOAT or not, it's hopefully it's some good quality and all that quantity.
You've written fantastic. You always write fantastic books. And, you've been, you studied under John Walvoord and Dwight Pentecost and, some of the giants of Bible prophecy. But we're living in days like we've never seen before. We've never seen days like this before. And I think you could go back, since 1948, and you keep saying that. What's happening right now in Iran, it is amazing. I mean, it's amazing on so many different levels. But we're going to kind of start with current events and then move into Bible prophecy. What your book is talking about is what's happening right now, but also where is this leading prophetically? Daniel 10, Daniel was praying and this angelic being, or the Lord appears to him, but this angelic being says, I've been trying to get here for 21 days, but the prince of Persia withstood me. And I've been fighting. And as soon as I leave here, the prince of Greece is going to come join him. We're going to, start fighting again. And only Michael, your prince, is helping me out here. This is a major spiritual battle that's happening. You see the effects of it in the news every day. I'm absolutely shocked at how Iran is just withstanding the United States and Israel. They're not giving up. They're not giving in. They're continuing to attack ships right today in the Strait of Hormuz. And so what do you think is happening right now just in the practical? Is there going to be a regime change? Is there going to be a failure in the leadership in Iran, or are they just going to continue to do what they're doing?
Well, those are all great questions. And some of those we don't know the answer to for sure. But, when we look at what the Bible says and when we look at current events through the Bible, we've seen a lot of events lead up to what's happening today.
Right.
It really started, I think, kind of just, I call it a prophetic shift of gears, October the 7th of 2023, right, when Hamas came, killed 1,200 and took the 250 hostages to Israel. That just accelerated things over there incredibly. And of course, Israel began to prosecute their war against Hamas. And you have Hezbollah, obviously, who's another, one of these proxies of Iran. You have the Houthis. So Israel's kind of embroiled in all of this. And then, we had the, kind of Iran would hit Israel and Israel would hit Iran back. We finally had that 12-day war in June of 2025. We went over there and, took out Iran's nuclear facilities. But then, we've got, Operation Epic Fury that's taking place now. because Iran doesn't want to give up this nuclear material that
Right.
they have. I think there's a couple of things here involved. One is they have 400 kilograms of highly enriched uranium to 60%. And it doesn't take long to get that to 90%, which is then weapons grade, which they say that they can make 12 nuclear weapons from that. Now, supposedly that, President Trump calls it the nuclear dust. It's buried somewhere under the nuclear facility or Isfahan.
Right.
But we want that because even if we've crippled their ability to do much else, with them having that, if they get any kind of capacity at all, they can ramp up and be able to have those nuclear weapons. So that's obviously a key issue. But I think behind all of this is just this eschatology. The Iranians have a view of the end times. It's interesting. Their whole regime is driven by end times prophecy. But it's end times prophecy from their perspective, from the Quran, about the coming of their Mahdi. So they see all of this chaos and all this confusion and their standoff with Israel and with the United States as putting out the welcome mat for the Mahdi. They believe they can hotwire the apocalypse.
Right.
So we're not dealing with people here like in North Korea or China that are atheists, that don't want to die, that want to, preserve their regime. You're dealing with people who believe they're going to be rewarded for what they're doing. They're preparing the way for their Messiah to come back. I mean, it's kind of like, in many ways, you're dealing with a regime that's kind of like David Koresh.
Right.
Way back in, the whole Waco standoff. You're dealing with people from a totally different mindset than what we have. And so, what I think the United States is doing is, I don't know if there'll be regime change there or not, but at least whatever regime is there, if we've taken away their capacity
Right.
to be able to,
Right.
launch missiles and to here or to Europe, then I think we'll be satisfied probably with that. But even if there is regime change, we know the Bible says that Iran in the end times is going to join with Russia, with Turkey, with Sudan, with Libya, probably other nations to come against Israel. So that radical Shiite ideology that's firmly held by the Mullah regime, by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, that's not going away.
Right.
And even if you've got some kind of a more moderate group there, even if the Crown Prince, Pahlavi was to come back, eventually I believe those forces that are there will come back in and somehow come to ascendancy and power again in the future. So there may be a lot of twists and turns, but we don't know exactly how we're going to get there, but we know where Iran will be ultimately in the end. They're going to be right where they are today.
Yep.
Death to Israel, death to the United States, and waiting for their Mahdi to come back.
Well, it's hard for the Western mind to understand what you just said, but I want to just make a point of that. The first time that I heard about the Iranian end times was on CNN. It was Christian Anandpour who was the correspondent, and she said exactly what you just said. And I believe that was back in the 1990s, and I didn't know it. I was not aware of that. And she was saying they have a view of eschatology that's kind of the reverse of what we have, and the chaos that is happening right now, this is a part of their eschatology. They believe that it's their responsibility to start war and chaos and mayhem, and that's going to usher in the hidden imam, their Mahdi, their Messiah figure. And so we look at what's happening in Iran right now. We say, boy, don't they know they're beaten? No, they don't know they're beaten. They actually think that they're doing what they need to do to serve Allah and to usher in the end times. So it's just so crazy to our Western minds to look at it. But exactly what you said is true. So somewhere in the future, there's going to be the Ezekiel 38 and 39 war. And we see all the nations aligned. Russia's busy with Ukraine right now. But of course, Iran is ready to wipe out America and Israel. Turkey is a part of the coalition. Turkey is very much philosophically and spiritually aligned to attack Israel right now, aren't they?
Oh yeah, their leader, their Erdogan. I mean, he's an avowed anti-Semite. I mean, he strongly supports Hamas, Hezbollah, all that they're doing. It's interesting, the long-standing civil war that was going on in Syria. Finally, Bashar al-Assad was ousted. Iran had a lot of influence in Syria.
Right.
So did Russia. all kinds of influence. They've both kind of evacuated basically because Russia has all their problems back home with Ukraine. Iran has all their issues now, but Turkey's come in and filled that void. And so many believe that Turkey with Iran, however Iran comes out of all this, they're going to be, in some way, they're going to be diminished. They're going to be degraded and weakened through this. And I believe that's going to give rise then to Turkey, kind of achieving some kind of ascendancy. And I think that's significant because 4 of the places in Ezekiel 38 are in modern day Turkey.
Oh, wow.
You have Meshech, Tubal, Gomer, and Togarmah.
Wow.
So 4 of the 9 places, there's 10 names there. One of them is the Gog, who's the leader, but there's 9 names of geographical places. 4 of them are in Turkey.
Wow.
And so I think that's very significant. Turkey's going to be a key player in this. But, Turkey's been always a little bit of the fly in the ointment because they're a member of NATO.
Right.
So, they're kind of, right. Turkey's one of those nations. I think they're one of the most skilled nations in the world at kind of seeking and representing their own interests.
Right.
They'll ally themselves with Russia, but yet they're supplying arms to Ukraine.
Yeah.
And then, they're friends with Iran, but then they'll come against Iran. They're just kind of a chameleon nation. But I think in the end, they will go to the east. They'll move east. They'll probably be put out of NATO. They're going to be part of this coalition when it happens. But Iranian kind of degrading is going to be ascendancy, I think, for Turkey for sure.
Well, we don't know when the rapture is going to happen. We just know we're closer than we were before. And the signs of the times, when you look at the signs of the times that are going on, but the United States right now is defending Israel. No doubt about that. We've got carrier strike groups over there. We've got military assets all over the Middle East right now to defend Israel and also to bring down Iran. If the rapture happened, Mark, and we don't know obviously all the details, but it would decimate America. And it would certainly probably change our relationship with Israel because as supportive as the Trump administration has been of the nation of Israel and militarily their war against Iran, if a liberal came in, if a progressive president came in and we withdrew our support from Israel, that would give the Gog-Magog coalition inspiration to attack.
Sure. And I read a statistic just the other day, a Pew Research, 60% of the people in America have an unfavorable view of Israel now, of Netanyahu and of Israel.
Wow.
That's 60% across the board.
Wow.
Now, obviously, it's much higher among some groups than others. But yet, so what I think will happen is when the rapture takes place, of course, there's going to just be global chaos for a while.
Right.
And there's going to be, someone's going to need to have to move in and kind of bring some calm out of the chaos. And I think the Antichrist will do that.
Right.
And I think he's going to come on the scene. And, the initial event of the 7-year tribulation is some kind of a treaty, an agreement that he brokers with Israel. Now, it may be a new covenant. He may compel a covenant between these nations. Or the word that's used there in Daniel 9:27, he may confirm a covenant. So he could come in and confirm what the Board of Peace is doing, the Abraham Accords, some other peace treaty that's negotiated. But there's going to be chaos for some period of time, and it's going to put Israel in a very precarious position when the rapture takes place. So they're going to be looking, I think, for someone to help them, and this Antichrist figure is going to come along and kind of solve that problem in the Middle East, because I think he's going to realize we're going to have to get this thing solved to kind of have everything arranged. But he's going to have, obviously, in his own mind, he's not going to have good intentions towards Israel. Right. But he just wants to get that solved for a period of time. And it will be when Gog-Magog come in and their armies are wiped out, and I think it's during the early part of the tribulation period, then that's going to eliminate these other forces and create a huge power vacuum. Right. Then I think the Antichrist will come in and fill, and obviously he'll break his treaty with Israel, and the Great Tribulation will break out.
Something happened this Purim that I never thought I'd see in my lifetime. Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, was eliminated on the very day Jews celebrate deliverance from a man who tried to destroy them. The spirit of Haman is real. It's not just in Iran. It's in the halls of Congress, on college campuses, and in the media. 25 lies about Israel have been repeated so often that even good people are starting to believe them. That's why we wrote the book, Haman's Lies. This book dismantles those lies with truth, and right now we have a chance to put it directly into the hands of every member of Congress, every senator, the president, every governor, and 1,000 pastors across this country. $15 sends one book. Our goal is $30,000. Go to endtimes.com/donate and help us get truth into the hands of the people who shape this nation. This is an Esther 4:14 moment. For such a time as this, God has put us here. Together, let's reach this nation. Well, your book is called The Persian Storm, and one of your chapters here is called The Persian Prophecies. Now, Persia is a major, of course, Daniel was in Persia, during the times of the book of Daniel. He was in Persia, but Persia is a major player in end-time prophecy. Iran is a major player in end-time prophecy, right?
Oh, yeah. And, what's fascinating to me is you read the Bible, the book of Daniel. Daniel talks a lot about the Persian Empire.
Right.
There are 36 times in the Bible you have the word Persia, Persian, Persians. 35 of those have already been fulfilled.
Wow.
But there's one out there remaining, Ezekiel 38, verse 5, where it talks about Persia will be part of this end time coalition. But the thing that's fascinating to me is, God made all these prophecies about Persia in the past. They're going to overcome the Babylonians, then they would be overcome by the Greeks. Very detailed prophecies of all that in the book of Daniel. But if all of those past prophecies about Persia came true exactly as the Bible said, then we can know that the one prophecy about Persia that's not fulfilled will be literally fulfilled as well. So,
right.
The Bible's got a track record in all areas of prophecy, but especially when it comes to Persia or modern day Iran. The name just changed from Persia to Iran in 1935.
Right.
And then it changed from Iran to the Islamic Republic of Iran in 1979. So there's a straight line with modern day Iran with ancient Persia. But to me, what a comfort just to look at the Bible and say, all these prophecies, hundreds of them about Iran or ancient Persia have been fulfilled. We can have confidence that this one will be as well. And another thing too is Ezekiel 38 and 39 follow Ezekiel 37. I know that's a great revelation for everyone, but Ezekiel 37 is the regathering of the Jewish people to their land, which we see happening. Yeah. It's happening before our eyes. It's been happening since 1948. So if we can see that prophecy being literally fulfilled right before our eyes, we know the Ezekiel 38, 39 prophecy will be fulfilled as well. So to me, these things are a great apologetic for our faith and strengthen our faith to know that these things that we're saying will come to pass just as God said they will.
There's no uncertainty. Because of Bible prophecy, there's in the larger picture, there's just no uncertainty. We know that these things are going to happen. If they don't happen before the rapture, they're going to happen after the rapture, during the tribulation, and these prophecies related to Iran. But, Mark, I look at what's happening today, and my comment is, I believe we're living at the end of the end times. Israel's about to turn 78 years old. Is that they were reborn May 14th of 1948. Next week is May 14th, of 2026. They're about to turn 78 years old. And so for 78 years, we've been seeing Bible prophecy fulfilled. But the things that I see today that let me know that we're living in a very, very critical time, and that is, one is Iran, obviously, what's happening there. Anti-Semitism. The anti-Semitism in the world, you talk about Aliyah, the Jews moving back to Israel that started back, 1948. Because of the persecution in Europe, because of the persecution in America, many parts of the world, Jews are going back to Israel. It's just in droves. It's an amazing thing. The other one, though, is AI, artificial intelligence. It's just the most amazing thing to see. Daniel 12, Daniel's told, seal this book up until the time of the end. Well, when's the end going to come? There's going to be travel, people going to and fro, and knowledge will increase. We have never in the history of the world ever seen anything like what's happening right now with AI. And we're about to see quantum AI that's about to come on the scene. And so these data centers, which I believe is the beast system being built, you've done shows on this, beast system being built right before our eyes. So we're seeing a convergence of end time signs. And what's happening right now in Persia, in Iran, is just one of the major signs that we're living in the end times.
No, it is for sure. You just mentioned those data centers. I heard something the other day, and I need to validate this, but someone told me, or I read online, that Elon Musk is saying they're going to build these data centers in space. He's saying these ones being built on Earth are going to be out of date, antiquated. They're going to build these in space,
I heard
and then
that.
they can transmit the data back because that way they can harness the energy there, solar and all kinds of things. So, I mean, this is stuff that is far beyond what we could ever imagine. So I agree with you that just Israel's the center of Bible prophecy, but Silicon Valley is kind of one B, I
Right.
think,
Yeah.
as far as being an epicenter for what we see happening. But yeah, there's no doubt, that Iran and what's been happening over there now for almost 50 years, taking place. So there's 47 years been taking place. That was a watershed moment when that took place.
Yeah.
You have got Israel in 1948, the Iranian Revolution in 1978, 1979. You had the fall of the Soviet Union happen in 1991, which allows Russia now to be, free from all these other nations that are around it that will be part of it still. I think they're part of Magog,
Right.
but it sets the stage now for them to kind of act independently. So you've got Israel, you've got Iran, you've got the Soviet Union fall, you've got all these things, and of course Iran with all of its proxies around Israel that are just constantly bombarding Israel. Israel right now is going into Hamas, going into Gaza, I think, to even do more now at this time. They've become very frustrated with what's happening there. So Israel's fighting on many fronts right
Yes.
now,
Yes.
and they're winning. And I think that's going to be something too that's going to happen in the end. That it's leading up to Israel's going to be strong. These enemies of theirs are degraded. They're going to be in a strong position. They're going to be in a strong position to negotiate this peace that's coming. So all these things are happening. The war that we're seeing now is going to lead to a peace, but then that peace then ultimately will give way to war. And we see all those things happening again with the Board of Peace I mentioned earlier, the Abraham Accords, all these peace movements. So we have the war pieces, we have the peace parts, kind of all moving together in concert into place. And then at the same time, as you mentioned, we have the just unbelievable advances in AI and all these other things that are happening. It's what's happening right now is it's changing so fast every day. It's hard to keep up with.
That's right. That's right. The escalation of it is one of the major factors there. And now you made the statement that this war is leading to peace, and you're saying that because Ezekiel 38 says that when the Gog Magog invasion occurs, Israel is at peace.
Yeah, they're at rest and living securely, it says, and there's differences of opinion among Bible teachers. Some will say, well, that describes Israel now.
Yeah.
They're at rest and living securely. There's a sense in which that's true. I would say they're living securely. I wouldn't say they're at rest. That word carries the idea of kind of being relaxed and
Yeah.
quiet is what that word means.
Well, Brian Schlager would argue with that because, he spends, about half his time in a bomb shelter over there, our Israel correspondent. I don't believe they're at rest.
Yeah, they're not at rest. So something has to happen for them to be at rest and living securely, and then this invasion occurs. And we believe that's the Daniel 9:27.
Right.
The Antichrist makes this treaty with Israel, guaranteeing them a peace. They kind of let their guard down, and then that's when this coalition of nations come against them. They're wiped out by God on the mountains of Israel, and that then leaves this huge vacuum in the world. You've got this Islamic power in Russia and Turkey that have kind of been neutralized. The Antichrist then I think is going to seize that, and he's going to come in, and that's when he's going to begin to build his power. And then at the midpoint of the tribulation, declares he's God, and then begins his global worldwide reign. So what we see today happening is really, I think, the build up to the peace, which then will give way to the war.
You have a chapter in your book called "Will America Survive?" Will we survive?
Well, I don't think we will. No, I don't think we'll survive as a great power in the end times. America is not mentioned in the Bible. We're certainly not mentioned directly. There's no United States or America. A lot of people think we're mentioned indirectly. I have people send me stuff all the time, like you do.
Yeah.
America's New York City, or Babylon, is New York City. In Revelation 17 and 18, that's America. We're the 10 lost tribes of Israel. We're the unnamed nation in Isaiah 18. Some people point to Ezekiel 38, where it mentions the merchants of Tarshish and the young lions thereof. So there's a lot of places people try to find America in the Bible. To me, all of those are too tenuous to try to make any, sure identification with the U.S. So, I don't think America is mentioned either directly or indirectly, which then raises the question, well, why aren't we mentioned? Well, some will say, well, a lot of nations aren't mentioned in the Bible and prophecy. But if we're the great superpower that we are today, the greatest nation on the face of the earth,
Right.
to me, it's unthinkable that we wouldn't be mentioned in some way in the Bible.
Yeah.
Far away places from Israel are mentioned. Rosh or Russia is mentioned. The kings of the east are mentioned. So God could have clearly identified us if we're the great superpower we are today. So I think something has to happen to reduce us from the superpower status that we have now. And it could be, there's a lot of plausible scenarios of how that could happen. And, a debt implosion.
Right.
We're $39 trillion in debt.
Right.
And we don't seem to have any leaders who have the will really to come in and really deal seriously with that.
No.
You've got all the moral rot that's in our country, a fall from within. God forbid a dirty bomb or a nuclear exchange with North Korea or some other nation. There's a lot of different things that could happen. But my view is that America will be reduced from our status dramatically at the rapture.
Right.
And again, you think about the rapture maybe in concert or fatal combination with some of those other things as well. But, you think about it, a drop on the Dow Jones the next day or, a mortgage crisis. When the rapture takes place, around 30 million people probably will be taken out of our country.
Right.
Somewhere around 5 to 8% of true
Right.
believers in Christ.
Right.
Well, and that's the salt and the light.
Right.
That's the best that's being immediately extracted from our country. So I think the rapture is going to have just a cataclysmic, dramatic effect on the U.S. Obviously, other countries will be affected, but you go to Europe today, less than 1% of the people are believers.
Absolutely.
The Middle East, it's point something,
Yeah.
believers. So America will be dramatically affected. And so what will happen at that point, we really don't know. America could join with some Western alliance of nations. That would be kind of where we would naturally gravitate, I think, to some European alliance that may ultimately give rise to the Antichrist.
Right.
But I don't think we'll be the great power that we are today. But I do think that we will remain strong until the rapture because we're the main defender of Israel. Now, obviously, God could raise up some other means to defend Israel, but just looking at the world right now, America is the primary human defense for Israel. So
That's right.
I believe we'll remain strong, at least relatively strong, until the rapture takes place. And then, kind of all bets will be off, which that's another thing that leads me to believe the rapture is near. Because you look at our country and all that's happening here, how much longer can we remain as strong as we are?
Yes.
And if we have to remain strong to defend Israel until the rapture, there's a shelf life for that,
Yeah.
of how long that's going to last. I think just again with all those other things I mentioned.
We're one election away. Mark,
Yes.
you imagine
Yeah, you're right.
another Joe Biden, another Barack Obama coming in, everything changes with Israel. We could go from being best friends to worst enemies overnight. So another issue related to Persia and the Persian prophecies, you have in Ezekiel 38, Sheba, Dedan, Tarshish, and her young lions. Now, in this war with Iran, one of the most shocking things is how they're bombing their Arab neighbors. The UAE, Saudi Arabia, all these different places that they're bombing. And I think that it even shocked them, that they started getting bombed the way that they were. Well, but the Bible prophesies that. It says when the Gog and Magog coalition comes against Israel, that Sheba, Dedan, Tarshish, and her young lions. Well, Sheba and Dedan, that's the Saudi Peninsula. That's Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states there. And so even the Bible prophesies geopolitically, Russia, Persia, Iran, Turkey are all going to be in this coalition along with many of the nations with them, the proxies. But the Saudi Peninsula would not be a part of that. They're going to confront this coalition. That's a major issue as far as just the detail that the Bible goes into. And so when you look at the world the way that Ezekiel 38 and 39 described it 2,600 years ago, it is as was described.
Yeah, the alignments are there perfectly. And it also mentions the, the merchants of Tarshish. Tarshish was, that's where Jonah was trying to escape to, and he was told to go to Nineveh. It was as far west as you could go.
Yeah.
Probably a Phoenician colony in modern day Spain.
Right.
Well, it's looking at the West, these Western nations. So you'll have these Western nations like Europe, and as you mentioned, these Gulf states kind of sitting this out, sitting on the sidelines. All they do is kind of give a lame protest.
Right.
They say, "Are you coming to gather spoil?"
Yeah.
And it kind of reminds us of the UN response to a lot of things. But you can see these Western nations and these Gulf states just sitting this out and watching this take place. So the alignment of the aggressors is in place,
Right.
and the alignment of these nations that will sit this out are in place as well. And it's interesting, Bahrain and United Arab Emirates right now, UAE, are two of the nations that signed the Abraham Accords.
Right.
And of course, I believe at some point in the not too distant future, Saudi Arabia will come along and join that as well. And then you'll have that, Sheba, Dedan, the merchants of Tarshish, the young lions thereof. You'll have all of that really in place. And so both coalitions are happening. So you're right. It's down to the most minute detail in this prophecy of who the nations are and what Israel's condition will be when this takes place. Yeah. And all of those factors are in place. Israel's not at rest and secure yet, but we can see how that is on the not too distant horizon.
Yeah. Some people through the years, including me, we kind of look at the Gog-Magog coalition and the prophecy of that, and it says they're coming to take spoil, booty and plunder, and also to retake the cities that were once uninhabited. In other words, they want the land and they want the goodies. Well, when you look at the coalition today, Russia is not interested in the land of Israel, except maybe to have a seaport on the Mediterranean or something. Mm-hmm. They want trillions of cubic feet of natural gas that's off the coast of Israel. That Israel is building a pipeline, through Cyprus and Greece to the European continent so that they can sell that to Europe and become a direct competitor with Putin in the energy business. That's a major issue with Putin. But the Muslims, Iran and the other Muslim nations involved, and Turkey certainly, Erdogan of Turkey has threatened many times to come and liberate Jerusalem and the Temple Mount. That's ground zero for them and the return of the Mahdi. And so everything's in place. I mean, they've got tremendous wealth. They've got tremendous, a strategic area there that people want spiritually and also practically. All the pieces are in place, which again just speaks of, when Jesus said, when you see these things start happening, lift up your head, look up, your redemption is drawing near. What do you think that people should be doing in regard to all these prophecies that are being fulfilled and what's happening in Iran right now? What do you think the person watching this broadcast, how should they respond?
Well, one thing we don't want to do is panic.
Right.
I think a lot of people have a lot of anxiety about what's happening.
Right.
I think it was Corrie ten Boom, said there's never panic in heaven, only plans.
Right.
I think she also said, the Trinity never meets an emergency session. I love that statement. Yeah. God's not wringing his hands up there in heaven, wondering what on earth's happening.
Yeah.
So we have to remember that God predicted these things, as you said earlier, 2,600 years ago, down to the detail. And we see these things happening. So it gives us confidence that God's in control of his world.
Yeah.
Rather than seeing these things happening and being panicked, when I see these things happening, it causes me not to panic because I see that things are happening just as God said they would.
Right.
I would be panicking if things were happening in a way totally inconsistent with the Bible. That would create panic.
Yeah.
We'd be looking around saying, well, the Bible predicted all these things. None of this stuff is happening.
Yeah.
So God controls this world. It's his world, and he controls it all. He's moving nations into place. And one of the things that always I think about a lot is if God controls the world, if he has the whole world in his hands, then he's got my world in his hands. If God can control nations and kingdoms and rulers, He can control my little puny world
Yeah, good.
and take care of that. And I know there's people watching today that probably a lot of things in their world might be falling apart, and then they're looking at all these, geopolitical events that are taking place, and just creates a lot of fear and a lot of anxiety. We need to get up every day confident in God's control over the world, over our world, but also too to have a desire and an urgency in our lives about helping other people that don't know Christ come to know Him.
Right.
And I pray every day for God to give me opportunities to share the gospel with people and the boldness to do it.
Right.
We need both. Sometimes I get an opportunity and I lack the boldness,
Yeah.
and sometimes you have the boldness and lack the opportunity. But to have both of those together, because I do believe that time is short.
Right.
We need to be going to gather with God's people. He says, don't forsake the assembling of yourselves together. Do it all the more as the day is drawing near. Be with God's people. Be encouraging churches and pastors that are teaching the Bible. Be doing what we can to get the message of the gospel out. This is not a time for us to sit back and be at ease in Zion. We need to be urgent in what we're doing, praying and asking God, what do you want me to do to use the gifts and the abilities you've given me in the time that we have left?
Absolutely. That's fantastic. Dr. Mark Hitchcock, The Persian Storm is your new book, talking about what's happening right now in Iran with Israel, but also talking about where we're going prophetically. Mark, where can people get this book?
Well, they can get it at all the places online. The normal places, Amazon and all the different book outlets online. Those are probably the best places. If you have a really good Christian bookstore in your area,
Yeah.
I'm sure they probably have it as well. And I like to support local bookstores. I know it's a little bit more inconvenient than just clicking a button on Amazon, but I like to do that. But it's available at all those places.
Where can people find out more about you and your ministry?
The church I pastor Faith Bible Church in Edmond, Oklahoma. And they can go to our church website and find out kind of what's happening there in the ministry that I have. And of course, I have the video that we do every week, marking the end times, that comes out on YouTube. They can connect with us there and watch those videos each week. And we give it an update and answer some questions about the end times every week.
It's a wealth. Your post every Thursday, endtimes.com, and if you're not a subscriber, you can go there to subscribe. But you do a post on Mondays where you're systematically teaching through the Bible with Bible prophecy, which is fantastic. Your show on Thursdays is always fantastic. You talk about current events, you answer questions, you do teaching. It's fantastic. But also I want to say the best book on Bible prophecy is the book you wrote called The End. And it's about that thick, and it is just systematic theology on end time prophecy. It's a fantastic book. But Mark, thank you so much for joining me today. I encourage everyone to go wherever you can go, get The Persian Storm by Dr. Mark Hitchcock. Mark, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much, man. God bless you.
God bless you. Bye-bye. Well, I hope you were blessed by that show today. It answers a lot of questions. We're living at the end of the end times. That's what I keep saying. Because we've been seeing end time prophecy happen for 78 years since Israel became a nation. May 14th of 1948, they're about to have a birthday here coming up in just a few days. Very significant times that we're living in, but the Bible gives us the answers. Bible prophecy gives us the answers so that we can have peace. And we can have answers, maybe when other people are confused and the world is in chaos. That's the purpose of Bible prophecy and the importance of this ministry. And so thank you for joining us. Listen, if you need prayer, go to prayer@endtimes.com. Send us your prayer request. We would love to pray for you. We pray by name for every person who sends in a prayer request. Questions@endtimes.com. If you have questions, send those to us. We get to as many of those as we can. Also, endtimes.com/donate. Give to help us with this ministry. I know many of you are subscribers and you give your subscription every month. In addition to your subscription, we're helping the nation of Israel. We're helping to support them with projects that we're doing all the time. Plus, we're defending the nation of Israel. Haman's Lies, the books that Dr. John Anderson and I just came out with, that book is to defend the nation of Israel. You're helping us to send this message around the world Bible prophecy, the gospel, helping people to understand what's happening, but you're also helping us to support and defend the nation of Israel. endtimes.com/donate. Please give your most generous gift right now. Stand with us as we're standing for the nation of Israel. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll see you again next time. Thanks for watching Tipping Point. If this message encouraged you, hit subscribe and share it with someone who needs hope right now. The signs are clear. Jesus is coming soon. Don't miss a single episode as we break down what Bible prophecy says about the days we're living in. Until next time.
Whoa, 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 oh, oh. I was chasing distant skylines, running far from where you stood, thinking if I had it all then maybe life would feel like it should. Every road kept pulling forward, every dream was somewhere new, but I never saw the pieces were all leading back to you. I tried to hold the whole wide world, every star, every view, but every piece I ever found was just another part of you. Every step, every mile, every dream I thought I knew led me back to where you are. My whole world was you. All the things I thought I needed started fading one by one, when I saw that all my reasons ended where we'd begun. I tried to hold the whole wide world, every star, every view, but every piece I ever found was just another part of you. Every step, every mile, every dream I thought I knew led me back to where you are. My whole world was you. If I had just turned around sooner, I would have seen it clear. Everything I ever searched for was already right here. I don't need the whole wide world, I don't need a sky so blue. Every piece of life I want is already in you. Every road now feels like home, every dream has come in view. I was lost until I found my whole world